Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining. Let's do Radha Madhav. Jai Radha Madhava Jai Kunj Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Jai Kunj Bihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Jai Yogir Vardhari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Jai Yogiri Vardhari Shodananda Vrajayana Ranjana Shodanandana Vrajayana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Agyantimirnasya Gyananjana Shalakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavcha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajiyam Sadvaitam Savadutam Krishna Setam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutadevi Pranmami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatu Vrehascha Kirpa Sindhu Bevacha Patitana Pavnebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo 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 Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pasthaya Bhutale Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta Swami iti namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasdi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Mukham Kroti Vachalam Pangum Langyate Grim Yat Kirpataham Vande Shri Gurudin Taranam Paramananda Madam Shri Taneshwar Hari Om Tassat Narayan Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Sasvit Vyasam Tato Jai Madhuriyat Nashta Presha Abdureshu Nitam Bhagavad-Sevayā Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Nistaki Hare Krishna. So, last time we were talking about temples, how the embassies of the spiritual world, the temples that we have here, and we also talking about doing worship at home and how we should spend our time and use how we should use our senses, everything given by God for a specific purpose, but we misuse them, and they should be used in the service of the Lord. And we also said that no one is higher than God, not the kings, not the people get misconception, sports stars, film stars, like that, they gods, but there's only one God, and He is the highest, and we need to render some service to the Lord, to Lord Krishna, because He's the He's the supreme personality of Godhead. Because God can mean many things, right, to many people. When we have three concepts of God, Brahman, Paramatma, and the Bhagwan. So it's the Bhagwan feature, the personal feature that we are really interested in. And then, so these are last couple of verses left now for this chapter. Wednesday we will have the overview, so no program in the morning. We'll have the overview with His Grace Sri Trivangananda Prabhu, wonderful preacher, and his Q&A is brilliant, so please have some questions for him, and get some great answers in return. So we do that, and then we go on to chapter 4. It's about the creation. So we're touching on creation, because Parikshit Maharaj asked our Goswami, Sukdev Goswami, about creation. Because if we say that Krishna is great, but then you want to know how great, right? Because we can say our parents are great, or my friend is great, my family is great. So there's so many great, but how great? And then by highlighting Krishna's opulences and what He has created, His creation, then we know really how great Krishna really is. So otherwise we can say great is like the example of Mr. Frog. Srila Prabhupada gives the example. So this frog had just been to the ocean, and he was coming back, and he meets some other frogs in a small pond, and he told them, he said, I've just been to the ocean, it's really great, it's really big. And he says, oh, is it really big? How big is it? And they sort of trying to work out, like according to the pond that they live in, how great, how big this ocean is, because they can only think in terms of what they know. And this is the problem, because our speculation is only up to our imagination or our past experience. They cannot imagine, after seeing a little pond, that there can be an ocean with water in all directions and you don't know where it finishes, right? It's hard to imagine that when you just used a small pond and you could see the other side like that. So this is why we have the scriptures. This is why we have Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which tells us how great and how big Krishna's creation is. So anyway, let's continue. So we'll go on to that chapter 4 from Friday. So this here. Okay. Jivan shafo bhagvatangri renum न जातु मृत्यो बिलाबेति यस्तु श्री विष्णु पद्यमनुजस्तुल्सया शवसन शवो यस्तु न वेद गंधम. So Jivan, while living, Shava, a dead body, Bhagavat Angri Renu, the dust of the feet of a pure devotee, na never Jatu at any time, Martyaha, mortal, Abhilabhet, particularly received, Yaha, a person, Tu, but, Shri, with opulence, Vishnu Padya, of the lotus feet of Vishnu. Manu Jaha, a descendant of Manu, the man. Tulsayaha, leaves of the Tulsi tree. Shavasan, while breathing. Shavaha, still a dead body. Yahu, tu but, now Ved, never experienced. Gandham, the aroma. And translation by Srila Prabhupada. The person who has not at any time received the dust of the feet of the Lord's pure devotee upon his head is certainly a dead body. And the person who has never experienced the aroma of the tulsi leaves from the lotus feet of the Lord is also a dead body, although breathing. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the breathing dead body is a ghost. When a man dies, he is called dead. When he again appears in a subtle form, not visible to our present vision, and yet acts, such a dead body is called a ghost. So we have two bodies, subtle body and a gross body. If you don't get a gross body, then you will roam around in a subtle body. But that you will do, because the soul doesn't die, and at the moment is encased in two bodies. It's encased inside the gross body and then further encased in the subtle body. Ghosts are always very bad elements, always creating a fearful situation for others. Similarly, the ghost-like non-devotees who have no respect for the pure devotees, nor for the Vishnu deity in the temples, create a fearful situation for the devotees at all times. The Lord never accepts any offering by such impure ghosts. There is a common saying that one should first love the dog of the beloved before one shows any loving sentiments for the beloved. The stage of pure devotion is attained by sincerely serving a pure devotee of the Lord. The first condition of devotion service to the Lord is therefore to be a servant of a pure devotee. And this condition is fulfilled by the statement, reception of the dust of the lotus feet of a pure devotee who has also served another pure devotee. That is the way of pure disciplic succession of devotional parampara. So like Maharaj Rahugan inquired from the great saint Jad Bharat as to how he had attained such a liberated stage of Paramahansa, and in answer the great saint replied as follows. Rahu ganatat tapsanayati nase jaya nirvanad grahadva na chandas neva jalagni surya vina mahatpad rajo bishekam. So, O King Rahugan, the perfectional stage of devotional service or the Paramhansa stage of life cannot be attained unless one is blessed by the dust of the great devotees. It is never attained by tapasya, the Vedic worshipping process, acceptance of the renounced order of life, the discharge of the devotees of household life, discharge of duties of the household life, the chanting of the Vedic hymns, or the performance of penances in the hot sun, within cold water, or before the blazing fire. In other words, Lord Shri Krishna is a property of his pure, unconditional devotees, and as such only the devotees can deliver Krishna to another devotee. So his Lord Krishna is a property of his pure, unconditional devotees. So Krishna is never obtainable directly. So this again highlights that we have to go through the agency of the spiritual master. We have to please the spiritual master. We have to serve the spiritual master. and we have to follow the instructions of the spiritual master. You cannot approach Lord Krishna directly. We can't even approach the Prime Minister directly. You want to speak to the Prime Minister, you have to go through his secretary or whoever is in charge for his appointments or his engagements. You have to speak to them, and then somebody has to let you through those gates at Downing Street, and then somebody has to let you in through the door of number 10 Downing Street. So like that, it's not like, oh, you just walk in and I want to speak to the Prime Minister. So I mean, that's even that level you cannot do. And what about the Lord of everything himself? His agent is your spiritual master. You have to please him. When he thinks you're qualified, then he will put you forward. Krishna is never obtainable directly. Lord Chaitanya therefore designated himself as Gopi Bhartu Pad Kamlayo Das Dasuna Das, or the most obedient servant of the servants of the Lord, who maintains the Gopi damsels at Vrindavan. A pure devotee therefore never approaches the Lord directly, but tries to please the servant of the Lord's servants, and thus the Lord becomes pleased, and only then can the devotee relish the taste of the tulsi leaves stuck to his feet. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that the Lord is never to be found by becoming a great scholar of the Vedic literatures, but he is very easily approachable through his pure devotee. In Vrindavan, all the pure devotees pray for the mercy of Srimati Radharani, the pleasure potency of Lord Krishna. Srimati Radharani is tender-hearted, feminine counterpart of the Supreme Whole, resembling the perfectional stage of the worldly feminine nature. Therefore, the mercy of Radharani is available very readily to the sincere devotees. And once she recommends such a devotee to Lord Krishna, the Lord at once accepts the devotee's admittance into his association. The conclusion is, therefore, that one should be more serious about seeking the mercy of the devotee than that of the Lord directly. And by one's doing so, by the goodwill of the devotee, the natural attraction for the service of the Lord will be revived. So basically, we are following the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. We are reading the translations of Srila Prabhupada. We are in the service of Srila Prabhupada. We are fulfilling the mission of Srila Prabhupada. So, we're trying to please Srila Prabhupada, and at the same time, we're trying to build some kind of relationship through him with the deities as well. So Srila Prabhupada says, deity worship and spread the transcendental vibration of the Mahamantra, and this is what we are trying to do alongside few other things that we have been told to do. So that's 23. So advancement is achieved by the mercy of the pure devotees. Without their blessings, our activities have no value. Only they can give us Krishna. They have him in their heart. Radharani, Panchatattva, they are great devotees of the Lord. Ask for their mercy. You cannot have direct relationship with Krishna. So even Radharani, who is the internal potency of the Lord, is considered the devotee of the Lord. And because Radharani, she is always thinking about Krishna. That's what she thinks about. She's always thinking about Krishna. And Lord Jagannath, he's always thinking about Radharani. So that way. But we want Krishna. So, we can pray to Radharani that please help us, please put in a word for us to the Lord. And Radha Ashtami is coming soon. We can ask Radharani to help us But the goal is not Radharani. This is sometimes the misconception. Some people think our goal is Radharani. Srila Prabhupada says, you got to remember, our goal, we can worship Radha and Krishna, but our goal is Goloka Vrindavan, and our goal is Lord Krishna is abode. Right? That's what we're aiming for. This is why it's been made so simple for us. We have Lord Chaitanya, who is Lord Krishna in the mood of Radharani. So it's 2 in 1. So this is why we have Gaura Nitai, worship them. Then there is no confusion of do we worship Radha or do we worship Krishna. They're 2 in 1. Anyway. And then we have Lord Nityananda, is the Adi Guru, just like Lord Balaram. The Guru is there, and Radha is there, Krishna is there, in the form of Gaurachandra. So, we get to, this is why we worship Gaura Nitai, and we glorify Gaura Nitai, most merciful. It's most merciful, just like Radharani. Gaurachandra is in the mood of Radharani, so it's most merciful. Tad asham saram hirdayam pyattedam yad ghriyamaner harinam dehi na vikriye tat yada vikaro netre jalam gata ruheshu harsha. So that asham saram is steel framed, hirdayam heart, but idam certainly that, yat which greha manehi, in spite of chanting, harinam, the holy name of the Lord, dehi, by concentration of the mind, now does not vikriyet, change, ath, thus yada, when, vikaraha, reaction, netra, in the eyes, jalam, tears, gatra, ruheshu, at the pores, harsh, eruptions of ecstasy. So certainly that heart is still framed, which in spite of one's chanting the holy name of the Lord with concentration does not change when ecstasy takes place. Tears fill the eyes and the hairs stand on end. So we should not with profit, we should note that with profit that in the first 3 chapters of the 2nd canto, a gradual process or development of devotional service is being presented. In the first chapter, which was the first step in devotional service for God consciousness, but the process of hearing and chanting has been stressed. So it's a good summary of what we've done so far in Canto 2. And the gross conception of the personal Godhead in his universal form for the beginners is recommended. So if you don't believe in Krishna having a personal form, you can worship the universal form. Nature, a lot of people worship nature. So by such a gross conception of God through the material manifestations of an energy, one is enabled to spiritualize the mind and the senses and gradually concentrate the mind upon Lord Vishnu, the Supreme, who is present as the super soul in every heart and everywhere, in every atom of the material universe. The system of Panch Upasana, recommending 5 mental attitudes for the common man, is also enacted for this purpose, namely gradual development, worship of the superior, that may be in the form of fire, electricity, the sun, the mass of living beings, so Lord Shiva, and at last the impersonal super soul, the partial representation of Lord Vishnu. They are all nicely described in the 2nd chapter, but in the 3rd chapter, further development is prescribed after one has actually reached the stage of Vishnu worship. So you have to understand that Vishnu is the object of our worship. Once you have reached that stage, the Lord in the heart, or then pure devotional service, and the mature stage of Vishnu worship is suggested herein in relation to the change of heart. the whole process of spiritual culture is aimed at changing the heart of the living being in the matter of his eternal relation with the Supreme Lord as subordinate servant, which is his eternal constitutional position. Very interesting. Changing the heart of the living being. I mean, we find that and anyway, I'll just say that there was this program coming on about the piano, and the teacher was saying to the student that they have to do some kind of symphony. He says, you have to put your emotions, even in that level. When you're playing the piano, you put your emotions, and it comes out differently than just doing mechanically. You have to learn how to use your emotions in playing the piano, and it just makes it more beautiful. And it's same with us when we're doing kirtan. You can do mechanically kirtan, but if you can learn how to put your emotions in that kirtan, then it's really something else. Even when you're giving class, are you giving a mechanical class that you just sort of memorized and you're just uttering whatever was there, verse 1, verse 2, heading 1, heading 2? Are you just going for memory? Or are you actually using your emotions and building your words around your emotions and doing things for memory? Or just digging information instead of just doing parrot fashion, just something that you memorized recently and you just uttering that. There's a difference. If you use your emotions when you're speaking, people relate to that. Everything is about emotions, right? Even like you have sports on TV, and you have like the wrestlers, and everybody likes a bit of drama, bit of emotion involved. It gets you more connected. So emotions, it's all about emotions. Without emotions, everything's very, very bland. There's no taste in the people like, and these people who make this program, they realize that it must have emotion in there. Otherwise, people get bored after a bit. There has to be some kind of drama created in there, get people's attention. So the emotion factor is very, very important in everything we do. There has to be emotion involved. Otherwise, it's just very tasteless. So, as he says, the whole process of spiritual culture is aimed at changing the heart of the living being in the matter of his eternal relation with the Supreme Lord as subordinate servant, which is his eternal constitutional position. So, with the progress of devotional service, the reaction of change in the heart is exhibited by gradual development from the sense of material enjoyment, by a false sense of lording it over the world, and an increase in the attitude of rendering loving service to the Lord. So, man bana bhav mad bhakto mad yaji mam namaskru ma avishi satyam te patijane pirosi me. So, the Lord says, always think of me. Well, even Kansa was thinking of Krishna, but then he says, become my devotee, render loving service to me. That's the point. Just thinking is not enough. You have to be devoted, and devotion comes from the heart. Vidhi bhakti, or regulated devotional service by the limbs of the body, namely the eyes, the ears, the nose, the hands, and the legs, as already explained here and before in the previous chapter we're discussing, is now stressed here in relation to the mind, or rather previous verse, which is the impetus for all activities of the limbs of the body. It is expected by all means that by discharging regulated devotional service, one must manifest a change of heart. If there is no such change, the heart must be considered steel-framed. So if there's no emotion in the heart, this patthar dil, And here he says, still framed, for it is not melted even when there is chanting of the holy name of the Lord. We must always remember that hearing and chanting are the basic principles of discharging devotional duties. And if they are properly performed, they will follow the reactional ecstasy with signs of tears in the eyes and standing of the hairs on the body. And we get none of that. I can vouch for myself. There's no tears in the eyes or standing of hairs. It's more like, how long, before I need to move from here. These are natural consequences and are the preliminary symptoms of the bhav stage. Yeah, you have to get to the bhav stage. We are in anartha nivritti, which occurs before one reaches the perfection stage of prem, the love of God. That's the highest position. If the reaction does not take place, even after continuous hearing and chanting of the holy name of the Lord, it may be considered to be due to offenses only. So, we are all in that position. We are all questioning why are now we getting these emotions, these symptoms. It's due to offenses only. That is the opinion of Sandarbha in the beginning of chanting of the holy name of the Lord. If the devotee has not been very careful about avoiding the 10 kinds of offenses at the feet of the holy name, certainly the reaction of feelings of separation will not be visible by tears in the eyes and standing of the hair on end. So we are, one way or the other, committing offenses. So we have to be very careful. Excuse me. So the bhav stage is manifested by 8 transcendental symptoms, namely inertness, perspiration, standing of hairs on end, failing in the voice. Well, we get that, but not due to this. Trembling, paleness of the body, tears in the eyes, and finally trance. So that's 8 transcendental symptoms. The Nectar of Devotion, a summary study of Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Ras Amrita Sindhu, explains those symptoms and vividly describes other transcendental developments both in steady and accelerating manifestations. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has very critically discussed all these bhav displays in connection with some unscrupulous neophytes. Now this is the thing, imitating the above symptoms for cheap appreciation. So this is very interesting, right? So some people can pretend though they're getting all these symptoms and they're in the bhav stage, imitating the above symptoms for cheap appreciation. So not only Vishwanath Chakravarti, but also Srila Rupa Goswami treated them very critically. Sometimes all the above 8 symptoms of ecstasy are imitated by the mundane devotees, Prakrita Sahajyas. So that's a Sahajya stage. But the pseudo symptoms are at once detected when one sees the pseudo devotee addicted to so many forbidden things. Yeah, so you can imitate the emotions, but they can be caught out by being addicted to so many forbidden things. Even though decorating the signs of a devotee, a person addicted to smoking, drinking, illegitimate sex with women cannot have all the above mentioned ecstatic symptoms. So it's not possible. So they're pretending. They're pretenders. But it is seen that sometimes these symptoms are willfully imitated. And for this reason, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti accuses the imitators of being stone-hearted men. They are sometimes even affected by the reflection of such transcendental symptoms. Yet if they still do not give up the forbidden habits, then they are hopeless cases for transcendental realizations. When Lord Chaitanya met Srila Ramananda Rai of Kavor on the bank of Godavari, the Lord developed all these symptoms, but because of the presence of some non-devotee Brahmanas who were attendants of the Rai, the Lord suppressed these symptoms. So Lord Chaitanya, sometimes he could control his emotions, his symptoms, and the other times he had no control, especially in front of his personal devotees, his close devotees. He would just he knows they will look after him. He would just let himself go into these emotions. So sometimes they're not visible even in the body of the first class devotee for certain circumstantial reasons. Therefore, real steady bhav is definitely displayed in the matter of cessation of material desires, or kshanti, utilization of every moment in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, avyarth kal atvam, eagerness for glorifying the Lord constantly, nam gane sada ruchi, attraction for living in the land of the Lord, pritistad vasati sthale, complete detachment from material happiness, virkati, and pridelessness, man shunyata, one who has developed all these transcendental qualities is really possessed of the bhav stage, as distinguished from the stone-hearted imitator or mundane devotee. Interesting. So I just want to go through that again. Therefore, real steady bhav is definitely displayed in the matter of cessation of material desires. So this is the checklist for somebody who's in the bhav stage, not somebody who's imitating all these emotions, right? So cessation of material desires, utilization of every moment in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, eagerness for glorifying the Lord constantly, attraction for living in the land of the Lord, complete detachment from material happiness, pridelessness. So these things cannot be imitated. Okay, we can imitate the emotions mentioned earlier, but no one can imitate this. You either have this or you don't have it. You can try imitating, but you can't keep it up. One who has developed all these transcendental qualities is really possessed of the bhav stage, as distinguished from the stone-hearted imitator, mundane devotee. The whole process can be summarized as follows. The advanced devotee who chants the holy name of the Lord in a perfectly offenseless manner and is friendly to everyone can actually relish the transcendental taste of glorifying the Lord, and the result of such a realization is reflected in the cessation of the material desires, etc. as mentioned above. The neophytes, due to their being in the low stage of devotional service, are invariably envious, so much so that they invent their own ways and means of devotional regulations without following the Acharyas. As such, even if they make a show of constantly chanting the holy name of the Lord, they cannot relish the transcendental taste of the holy name. Therefore, the show of tears in the eyes, trembling, perspiration, unconsciousness, etc. is condemned. They can, however, get in touch with the pure devotee of the Lord and rectify their bad habits. Otherwise, they shall continue to be stone-hearted and unfit for any treatment. A complete progressive march on the return path home, back to Godhead, will depend on the instructions of the revealed scriptures directed by realized devotee. Very nice. And finally, if we get to it, okay. Alright, so really finished. Atha bidei angamano nikulam prabhashase bhagavat pradhanha yad aha vyeskir atam vidya visharado nirpatim sadhu prishtha. So I'll just go straight to translation. O Sutta Goswami, your words are pleasing to our minds. Please therefore explain this to us as it was spoken by the great devotee Shukadeva Goswami, who's very expert in transcendental knowledge and who spoke to Maharaj Parikshit upon being asked. So knowledge explained in the previous Acharya, by the previous Acharya like Shukadeva Goswami, and followed by the next like Sutta Goswami, is always powerful transcendental knowledge, and it is therefore penetrating and useful to all submissive students. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the second canto, third chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled Pure Devotion Service, the change in the heart. So it's all about the heart and about emotions and about devotion, how we serve the Lord. And heart is where the problem is, so many desires, so much contamination, and that's what we need to work on. Hare Krishna. I'll stop sharing. So thank you once again for joining, and let's go through this. Pundikaks Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam.
Auntie Prabhu.
Yeah. Again, so many points in these 3 verses, but a few points which I really liked it. You mentioned about emotional, like when we speak, it's not like a by heart and then just do some presentation and finish off, but with emotion. So that's why I like my Guru Maharaj classes basically. That's how connected to my Guru Maharaj as well. Because when he give a class, he connect to the scripture obviously, but again he connect to his personal experiences and how he get benefit from his spiritual master Gaurukunda Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, and then how Gaurukunda Swami was connected to Srila Prabhupada. And he explained every scripture almost with his personal experience, and that actually helped me to connect to the scriptures as well very nicely. Um, and he had a rough time when he was actually in the beginning phase. He had very rough time, and when he shared, we can see how Krishna protect when you are sincere towards your spiritual master. And the point you mentioned about tears, standing on earning of hair, such symptoms. I've This Sunday, Shivram Swami Maharaj gave a class in Manor, Bhaktivedanta Manor. I heard it only for a couple of minutes, but I felt like even though I read Bhagavatam completely somehow, and Bhagavad-Gita completely somehow, nectar devotion somehow, but still not able to connect to Krishna in that way how Maharaj explained. I felt like there is so much to know about Krishna first to get to the stage of coming tears or standing of hair. To get that connection, first we should know more personally about Krishna. Like once Nita Ketan Prabhu asked in a class when he gave on Sunday that who is the parents, who is the relatives, who are the brothers, who are the sisters of Krishna, like that. So when you actually personally connected, you know about the person in and out, and that helps to get the emotional feeling. Otherwise, just knowing something that okay, I'm the soul, I'm not the body, these things definitely help us to purify at one stage, because it is also mentioned that chanting offenselessly and become friend to everyone, and how well we are connected to Krishna is determined by the purity of your chanting. So when our chanting is pure without anarthas, we can say maybe we can developing some love towards Krishna. But again, to develop that love, Krishna said in Nectar Devotion, Srila Prabhupada says that Krishna will not give bhakti to anyone directly, because he will be bound by their devotion service then. So he always gives through his devotees. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, we come across so many examples where King Prataparudra, he want to have the company of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he want to meet Mahaprabhu, but he never approached him directly. He approached it through Swarup Damodar Das Goswami, Ramanand Rai, like that. So, and they convinced Mahaprabhu to meet Prataparudra. Similarly, I also think like when Lakshman, Bali and Sugriva had that fight, Lord Ram makes sure that Sugriv take the blessings of Lakshman first. That's why he said that first time I could not defeat him because I could not recognize who is Vali and who is Sugriva in this. But he made him to put a garland in the neck of Lakshman where he has to bend in front of Lakshman. So without approaching the devotees, we cannot approach the Lord. And out of all devotees, Srimad Radharani is the one, the most dearest devotee of Sri Krishna, and we have to approach. That's why we have Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare signifies Srimad Radharani, and we are seeking her help to convince Krishna. That's all, Prabhuji.
Very nice. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for sharing that. Kiran Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, everybody. Yes, we initially discussed or mentioned the temple as the embassy of the spiritual world. Sadly, the temples that we sometimes visit lack that depth of spirituality. Of course, there is pran in the deities, but the devotees or the custodians of those temples are more engrossed in their personal positions rather than serving the deities. And so sometimes, we sometimes get what's the word I'm looking for? It's an indifferent experience of going to the temples. Sometimes our experience at home with our deities is much more productive. Of course, going to Bhaktivedanta and some other temples can be powerful because those are the place where a lot of the devotees have had the dust from the Lord on their heads, and they've been able to experience and smell the fragrance of tulsi from the Lord's feet. That aroma and that ambience of being in those environments is important because they fructify our experiences. They actually enhance our experiences. So yes, you can be a devotee with a heart, or you can be a ghostly type devotee, heartless and without spirit. And you can tell the one who is a genuine devotee, not one who is an imitator or a faker, because when they speak genuinely from the depth of their hearts. And of course, the Shikshastakam exemplifies how we have to be humble as the straw on the ground. And that welling of tears, that experience of the hairs on our back of our head sweating, trembling, will only occur if there is genuine, unconditional devotion. And that will give us the road to our goal. And our goal is Krishna. But we've been given so many different ways of attaining that goal. And ultimately, if you can become a servant of the devotees, a das of the das, and serve the deities as well, and do those basic things, they're not rocket science: chanting, worship, service, reading. You don't need a PhD in that. Simple things which will develop and enhance the heart. Those transformations will make the heart become more conducive to the development of Krishna consciousness. And hence that transformation and that bhav state will occur. We don't have to be an android, we don't have to be mechanistic, we don't have to become prescriptive in our practice. If that comes straight from the heart, then that is genuine. You can tell one who is a genuine devotee because it comes flowing from the depth of their hearts. And hence this is the journey we're on. It's a constant reading, thinking. The tongue should be vibrating. Every step, a dance, every word, a song, and that should be the journey of bhakti. And all our activities should be glorifying Krishna, and everything we do should be for his and his pleasure alone. A change in the heart is this chapter, and a pure devotee must engage in pure devotional service to have a transformation in the heart. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Very nice. Thank you, Prabhu. Hina Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna all. Thank you so much. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, I think just to add to Prabhu's points that it's covered, I've also captured about how verse 23, how life is, I guess the essence of this, the summary of this is that our life actually is defined by our connection to the Lord. And it's not just meaning that we're alive and we're breathing. This is the way that, I think this is what Sukadev Goswami is explaining here. And taking the dust of pure devotees, I noted down, which for me is about accepting their guidance and allowing their influence to touch your life. I think in this day and age, the influencers tend to be, those that are in the movie business or the sports personalities of the world, but actually the greatest influencers that we should be accepting are the pure devotees. They should be our influencers. And then just on that point, actually, I was just thinking about how special it is, how special devotees are, really. We take it for granted, I think, as well, sometimes because we're in frequent association with other devotees. But if you actually do the maths, the chances of actually meeting a devotee on this earth, which is like 8 billion people, it's quite rare. When you put it into context like that, it's actually very, very special to have Sangha that we have. And then just also on this point, which also talks about, the aroma of Tulsi from the Lord's feet, etc. So I think this is trying to imply that we should have direct, that, somebody who is, that to make your life meaningful, we should be having direct engagement in bhakti, have sadhana bhakti, have the association of devotees, and all this is what makes life meaningful. Otherwise, we're no different to a dead body, essentially, is what Srila Prabhupada is saying here. And then just around, the nice points on 24 around the transformation of the heart through chanting, and how often, it makes reference to the still-framed heart, which I think indicates normally the heart is hard or it's closed, etc. But it's because it's been conditioned by the material modes and offences, essentially, which blocks the rasa. I was listening to a lecture just, I think, last week, where it was very nicely explained that, bhakti is, in essence, bhakti is love. So we're learning to love. This is a practice of learning to love. And so our chanting, as it's already been mentioned, our chanting should have our heart in it, is to have the emotion in it, because we're chanting for the Lord's pleasure, ultimately. So it has, that we have to put our heart into it. That was it. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. Praveen Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji and Pranam. Yes, very nice verses. Explained very nicely. So the 3 verses, so we're getting the main, what we are learning is, the first verse is teaching us how to serve the devotees, and we can only approach Krishna through the service of his pure devotees by the mercy, and like in Bhagavad-Gita as well, 4.3 for Tadviti Pranipate, and how we have to approach the spiritual master submissively and serve him. So we can't think like we can go to Krishna directly. And then the next verse is talking about the transformation. The real purpose of chanting is transformation. And if we're not transforming, then the heart is compared to like a steel framed. And we know what is our ultimate goal is prema. So how we achieve prema is hearing, chanting, then purification of the heart and change of heart, and then bhav and prema. And then it nicely gives indications of genuine bhav, the points, becoming tolerant, using our time wisely, only in devotional service, serving Lord all the time, not just whenever we choose. The main thing is detachment from material enjoyment. I think that's what everyone struggles with. and freedom from the desire for prestige and recognition. So I think these are the indicators we can check ourselves, am I really advancing in bhakti? So, and then it talks about like we don't have to chase the symptoms, so anybody can imitate those symptoms. So we see not in Iskcon, but like other places, like people will just pretend they're crying and then they're fine. And then the last verse again, it emphasizes about the importance of the disciplic succession. So so thank you so much, Prabhuji. I'll be short. Running out of time. Thank you so much. And sorry, I also wanted to say about the examples, like the first verse, like Dhruv Maharaj, how he got bhakti because he went to the forest with the material desire, but then Narad Muni bestowed his mercy, and Dhruv Maharaj got the Lord. And for Kumaras, how they smelled the tulsi leaves and became the devotees from being impersonalists. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. Vijay Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, everyone. Yes, quite a lot in these verses, and a few things that stood out for me was that the mercy of the pure devotee is essential, and we have to go for that. We can't go directly to the Lord, but the pure devotee, who we should be serious about and do our best. And I was thinking that also that when if our parents were on a different planet and we couldn't contact them or have association of them, we'd be very, very sad, and the symptoms like crying and thinking about them and all that would happen quite often. And so this verse, the verses are sort of saying that that's what's happened here, that we're away from Krishna, we're Judai, which we mean separation from Krishna, and we haven't realized it, because if we did realize that we were separate at the moment, then we'd be crying and tears and hair standing on end would occur. And also it seems to point out that why this is not happening is because of our offenses. So we've got to cut down our offenses, and the change of heart would happen, and that our greatest asset in doing this is to chant purely as we can. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu. You have to keep chanting. It's a two-way process. We endeavor to improve, commit less offenses, and then by chanting that purifies us more, and that helps as well to come to that stage. So, it's two edges there helping us. Thank you, Prabhu. Mataji, Sunita Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, everyone. Yeah, from these verses, I just noticed that it's saying the dust from the lotus feet of the pure devotee. And the other thing is aroma from the tulsi leaves are considered sacred and respectful gesture in the devotional service. So with the mercy of pure devotees, like we have to have association with the pure devotee to get the mercy, and then we can reach to the Lord. And we can pray to Radharani and Panchatattva and asking for their mercy to get and then reach to Lord Krishna and advance in our Krishna consciousness. That's all, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Ajay Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Yeah, it's some very nice verses here. It's the first verse, the verse covering mentioned Jud Bharat and King Rahugana. I think that was quite key there, because it's previously Jud Bharat was Bharat Maharaj, and he was great devoted Lord. He reached Bhava Bhakti, but he wanted to go higher, to reach Prema Bhakti. So he deliberately focused his mind, he neglected his Bhakti and became attached to a deer. Now, at first glance, I think that's utterly ridiculous, but those that are great devotees of the Lord, they understand the process. And so that intensified his devotion to Krishna, because he had found himself in a very negative position. But even as a deer, he would be near the ashrams of his the rishis I had previously taken instruction from, and would listen to them. And then in the next life became Jad Bharat, who was firmly, completely absorbed in prayer bhakti. He was completely absorbed in devotion service within. That's the thing. That's why we need these association with pure devotees, like explained to King Rahugana, that all these other, tapasya, all these austerities, they're helpful, but they won't get you to the ultimate goal. It's because only those pure devotees who completely dedicate themselves to Krishna's devotion, those that are completely understand the process, have received the mercy previously themselves, they can instruct you. Through their service, that's where you gain the approval to actually serve Krishna himself. And so I even like someone like King Rahugana, who was actually previously treating Jad Bharat really badly. When he realized, when he heard the words from Jad Bharat that he's actually a great saint, not just a madman, he fell down. He fell to an obeisance to him, because he realized that actually I've done a great offense. So if you have the opportunity to serve a great devotee, you should take full advantage of it, because even if you have done offenses, they can rectify straight away just by apologizing, and then you can take to your bhakti as well. So it's just a great example for all of us that we can, when we have the opportunity there, we should try to make use of it, because such association is rare, and if it doesn't, it's not made use of, then you can get distracted, and then things get in the way, things happen in life, and all of a sudden what's going smoothly becomes awkward. So that Jad Bharat's a great example of just that single-mindedness, just focus on Krishna's bhakti, and then everything else takes care of itself. Hare Krishna.
Great. Yeah, amazing. I mean, how powerful Jad Bharat's preaching would be. That 1 minute Maharaj Raghuna, he's swearing at them, using all sorts of nonsense words to them, and then to listen to somebody who just carrying him, to give him the audience, give him the time to listen to him. Although you just say, hey, let's speak, just do your job. And he actually listened to him, and he's understood him, and then he appreciated him, and then he's in front of all the people, he bowing to him. So how powerful, Jad Bharat was. Amazing. Thank you. Radharani.
Hare Krishna, everyone. My pranams to all of you. Yes, the crescendo to this chapter has been beautiful, and it just sums up the devotional service. So I was thinking that if you compare the pure devotee to anything in this material world, it's impossible, isn't it? The closest we can say is that the pure devotee is like the Kohinoor. Because, in the Maya world, people give more weight to the things which are expensive. So we can say they are the Kohinoor of the devotees. That's the pure devotee. And we had the good fortune of hearing kirtans of Shivram Swami and Madhav Prabhu in Manor last week. And the last time I heard Shivram Swami do kirtan was at the London Rath Yatra. And that was something which kept us, energized for many weeks through all the heat waves we had since then. And now again to have the good fortune of hearing the kirtan of these devotees, these pure devotees, takes you to some other level. When you're hearing their kirtan, singing along with them, following them, you just feel that this is what chanting is, this is what kirtan is. What we do is just like croaking of the crows. And to achieve that, crows and frogs, and to achieve that level of purity in your rendition of the kirtan, of the chanting, yes, there is a lot of tapasya, there's a lot of sincere discipline. And discipline is one thing which is lacking in us. And if we become a little bit disciplined, we feel sometimes, don't we feel that, yes, this is what is the benchmark of the pure devotional service. We do get glimpses here and there in our devotional service as we do it every day. We try to do it. We don't do it. We try to do it with the help of our spiritual master. And this is it. Krishna wants us to be in the league of those pure devotees before he is going to give us the admittance into the into his spiritual kingdom, in order to be apprentices in the bhakti, in the houses of a gopi, of the gopis or manjaris, who will help us when we take birth in their houses, and then they will help us to train us. Because when you have to serve the highest of the highest of the highest personality in this world, you got to have a lot of credentials on your CV. You won't just be admitted that, yes, you know what is Mahamantra, you know what is this. The theoretical knowledge is going to be nothing. These verses have again certified that the bhava, the emotions, something which is going to be coming straight from a heart, because we know that when something comes straight from a heart, it connects the other heart so seamlessly, because the super soul in the other heart recognizes where this is coming from. So this is what we are aspiring for, and let's pray to the great pure devotees of the Lord that they also give us some dust of their lotus feet, bless us with some blessings that we can embark on the pure devotion service in this lifetime. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, and thank you so much for your association, your realizations. It's very helpful. So let's continue, and let's meet on. Please do join on Wednesday evening. Get the association of a devotee of Srila Prabhupada, disciple. We can't get better than that right now. And there's not many disciples. They are disappearing very quickly. In the next few years, you'll see a lot more disappearing because they have an age and they have health problems, so they will disappear. So please take advantage of the disciples of Srila Prabhupada whenever and wherever we can. So they're coming to us. We can't ask more than that. Prabhu is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He's happy to give us the overview. How more humble can you be? I'm a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and I'm going to give this lecture to like 8-10 people. No, they're happy to preach whenever, wherever. So this is the beauty of that. So let's please all take advantage of that, and very important we take the association and elevate ourselves. So Granth Raj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Prem Nande, Hari Hari.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.